Hey, what's up? It's been a while since I made one of these videos. And yeah, I have Allen Iverson as my 7th greatest shooting guard in professional basketball history. I know some people would have him rank a little bit higher than that. That's fine, dandy with me. I think that it can be said that there's been few players as exciting to watch as Allen Iverson. He has to be probably, he has to be one of the quickest players I've ever watched. In his prime, this guy was exceptionally quick. You always see a highlight of him crossing up Michael Jordan, and a lot of people that hate Michael Jordan always. It's kind of funny. A lot of times the cold Tars will reference that video as some type of, oh, Jordan's overrated. Look, see, look what Iverson did to Jordan. Never mind the fact that this was a 20, I think it was a 21-year-old time at the time Allen Iverson going against a 34-year-old Michael Jordan. And never mind the fact that Jordan stayed with him the first move. It was the second move that Jordan sort of bit, and then he recovered enough to still contest the shot. I've seen a lot of guys get crossed up by Allen Iverson who were much younger than Jordan and looked a lot more foolish. But anyway, this isn't about Jordan. This is about our AI. And I have to admit, man, when Allen Iverson first came in the league, I was not a big fan of his. I thought that he shot the ball too much. I thought he was a chucker. I thought he was very selfish. But as time goes on, as usually with me and players, I tend to get grow a lot more respect for these guys, particularly as the years would go on, and these guys' certain character traits come out. And one thing about Iverson that I admired was his toughness. He was a guy 6 feet tall, 165 pounds, listed. Most likely he was about probably 5'10", 5'11". And some people feel he's the greatest little guard of all time. There can be something said about that. A lot of people reference his low field goal percentage, and at 42.5% for his career, that is relatively low. However, if you consider the fact that this guy was only really about 5'10", 5'11", walking around, and then you consider the fact that he's playing in an era where there was still, particularly the beginning of his career, there were still dominant centers in the game. Then you compare his field goal percentage to guys like Elgin Baylor, who shot just slightly better for their careers despite being 5 or 6 inches taller and about 60 pounds heavier. It's not that bad, when you look at his field goal percentage. Don't get me wrong, he had some atrociously bad shooting games, I remember. But he was not the worst offensive player I've seen. I thought sometimes he took some bad shots. Sometimes he took some forced shots. Sometimes he was, on some of those teams that he played on, he had to take some of those shots, But Allen Iverson, aside from the scoring, as a defensive player, he wasn't awful. He was pretty good to me. That's just my opinion. I think he was a lot better as far as in the passing lanes, getting steals and whatnot. He was a very good passer. Very good passer. For a time in his career, he played the point guard position, particularly when him and Jerry Stackhouse were still on those teams together. But you have Allen Iverson, probably the first guy to to modernize the NBA to what we see now, for bad and worse. Make it more of a street game, more or less. He modernized NBA. Extremely baggy shorts, the cornrows, the tattoos. After the 2001 season, he started wearing the sleeve, which became, he wore, I think because of bursitis, I believe, on his shoulder. He wore it afterwards. It became fashionable, and then these different other players like Tracy McGrady wearing sleeves, Kobe Bryant. McGrady more or less wore the sleeve for his leg, but still, it became iconic almost to have these different accessories as fashion statements, and Allen Iverson helped to usher a lot of that in. Trying to go through different things of his career. I remember he was in high school at Bethel High, I believe Hampton, Virginia. He got into an altercation that made the press here, and I think it made national news when he got into a bowling alley brawl. Him and some other young people. The thing that was kind of distressing about this situation was you had it was a mixed crowd. You had whites and blacks, and it was Iverson and 4 blacks that were the only ones that got arrested. Al Iverson was accused of throwing a chair at a woman. He denied that, said in the past that he didn't do anything, and if he was going to be accused of hitting somebody, at least let it be a guy, not a girl, so I don't know, that whole thing was fishy to me, you know what I'm saying, but Douglas Wilder, and his wandering days as governor, granted Iverson clemency. Iverson went on to go to Georgetown, and played, I believe, 2 years there. Had the highest scoring average ever for a Georgetown player, 22.9 points per game. However, became the first player to leave John Thompson's program early. And in 1996, probably, in my opinion, the most deep draft ever. 1984 was a very deep draft too, and 1981 is another one that was a very deep draft. But 1996, Al Iverson was the first pick overall by the Philadelphia 76ers. He won Rookie of the Year that year with 23.5 points, 7.5 assists, 2.1 steals. The very next year, I think Iverson's scoring average dropped a little bit as he played more the point guard position. And him and Jerry Stackhouse sort of, battle as far as, whose team it was and who was going to dominate the ball. And the Sixers got rid of Stackhouse, and so he got traded to the Detroit Pistons, and it became Iverson's team. That shortened lockout year, Al Iverson won the first of his 4 scoring titles, 26.8 points per game. Barely edged out Shaquille O'Neal. I think that year was also the first year that the Sixers went to the playoffs. After the 1999-2000 season, and some people forget this, Allen Iverson and Larry Brown were, their relationship had soured so much that Allen Iverson was nearly traded to the Detroit Pistons. I think the only thing that, if I remember correctly, the thing that stopped that trade from going through was something dealing with Matt Geiger. I can't remember exactly what it was. He didn't want to waive something. I forgot what it was. But, that's the only thing that stopped that trade from going through. The very next year, Allen Iverson and the Sixers going to run. I think halfway through the season, they made a trade for Theo Ratliff for Dikembe Mutombo. And to me, in my opinion, Dikembe Mutombo was the bigger of the 2 reasons as to why they made it all the way to the NBA Finals. Don't get me wrong, AI had a very good season, had some very memorable individual performances, particularly in the postseason, which is something that I always look at And that's probably why that was Al Iverson's most memorable year, 2001 year. Even though I thought Shaq probably should have won MVP that year, Al Iverson went crazy during that Toronto Raptors series. It was a wonderful series to watch. But Mutombo's rebounding presence was big because he rebounded a lot of those missed shots that a guy like Al Iverson put up. And those were extra 76ers possessions. That was a very, very good defensive Sixers team. And the one thing that was missing was a dominant offensive rebounder. And when you control the rebounding boards as a team, generally you're going to be a team that's going to be hard to beat. And, we see that all the time. Every team that has a dominant rebounder usually a team that's going to be hard to beat. And that's why I think right now, I'm going to say it right now, I don't know what the final roster is going to be. I think the Houston Rockets team is going to be some team that's going to be hard to beat for the next season, 2013-2014. I think that Dwight Howard's style of play will fit more evenly with the Houston Rockets. I think a guy like Kevin McHale would be a good mentor / coach for a guy like Dwight Howard. But anyway, go back to talk about Al Iverson, a summary of his career. The very next few years, the Sixers were still a pretty good team, but certain players got older, like Aaron McKee, Eric Snow. They made a trade. I think they traded to Mutombo sometime in 2003. And the Sixers gradually started falling back down to a middle-of-the-road type team. The rule changes, I think prior to 2005, 2006 season, I believe it was, helped to elevate Allen Iverson. That really helped perimeter players. And at that time, AI, about 30, 31 years old, was showing some signs of slowing down, but the rule changes. He had his best statistical season ever. I think averaged 33 points that year, shot something like 45% from the field, which was, like gangbusters for him. And, all the way into 2000, I believe it was 2006 or 7, when Allen Iverson was traded to the Denver Nuggets. He and Carmelo didn't mesh very well, and around this time was when Allen Iverson started falling off as a player. I believe he was traded soon again I think he was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. That didn't last long. Came back to the Philadelphia 76ers, a shell of the former player that he was. And, he, from last I've really heard from Allen Iverson, he's playing overseas. And he really, as far as his NBA career, is over. I don't think he'll ever really come back to the NBA. At this stage of his career, he's 38 years old. Really don't see it. But had a hell of a career as far as being a professional basketball player. As I said, he was the 2000-2001 Most Valuable Player Award winner, 1996-1997 NBA Rookie of the Year. 11 times he was an NBA All-Star. 2 times he was an NBA All-Star Game MVP. A 4-time NBA scoring champion. 3 times he led the NBA in steals. 3 times an All-NBA first team. 3 times the All-NBA second team. In 2006, he was an All-NBA third team. That's when he was 31 years old. Actually 30 years old. And he was on the 1996-1997 NBA All-Rookie first team. One of the most exciting players in NBA history. Allen Bubba Chuck Iverson.